a little bit too much talking about it, but we're going to talk about COVID, and we're going to talk about COVID from my perspective, not what's on CNN and all the other TV shows, right? So, first off, let's just get real and understand that what we're talking about is a virus. It's a virus, right, Doc? It's a virus. So I don't know why the world's gone crazy on the issue, because guess what? Hold on to your seats. There's like 1,000 viruses all around our body all the time, and some of them are already inside, right? We're in a lab, you see an Epstein-Barr virus hanging out there, been hanging out for a while. Your virus from the chicken pox comes out as shingles down the road, goes dormant, hangs out. So it's a part of our lives. It's quite honestly part of the situation that God has given us, right? It's a virus. Also, another thing that'll blow your mind, well, how many pounds of bacteria are in your body, right? Studies show we have 2 or 3 pounds of bacteria in our body all the time. Most of that in where? What do you think? What?
In your gut.
In your gut, that's right. Very good, very good. It's in your stomach. It's part of what makes us go, and it's the balance that we need to create. Sometimes there's too much of one bacteria. In the old days, you get an ulcer, all right? And they figured out it was, too much H. pylori, all right? E. coli, oh my God, it's dangerous. It should be there. It's part of the deal, right? And of course, when we look at right now, we're talking about the COVID-19, all right? The coronavirus, you could just turn the back of your Clorox bottle and you'll see it says good against coronavirus, right? So coronaviruses in general is part of a class that's been around a long time. And we won't get into some of the other things about how that really got here, but it's here and we're dealing with it. And people got a little bit freaked out. I'm sorry to say that I think we got all hot and bothered. And yes, some people succumb to a virus just because they do that all the time from all those other viruses that are floating around. And if you're, as a host, if you want to be a good host of a virus, then you're already in a situation where you're sick, you have loss of some nutrients and some minerals, you're not eating well. The situation is such that if you want to be a good host, virus will love you and it's gonna want to survive. And we also have viruses that have been around, and we know some of the other issues that have gone on before. Ebola, right? Big thing in the 80s. I know most people weren't around in the 80s. I know that, but right? Thanks, Anna. Katie May, yeah, okay, Katie May. But AIDS. It was such a devastating issue. Do we have a vaccine for AIDS yet?
No.
Nope, we don't. Right? And it was such a problem. It was really big during that time, and it was such a big part of life. But guess what? First of all, we all kind of survived it, and we're here, right? And the other thing is, we'll give some local flair to it. Coxsackie virus, right? Every little kid is going to have a little Coxsackie virus at some point, and maybe that we consider that part of the childhood issues that kids get. And in some ways, maybe we become too aseptic, too clean. Believe it or not, right? My wife knows that. The whole idea of the hand sanitizers. We were on a Viking cruise back in, 2018 or 17, before all this kind of hit the fan. And every time I go for dinner, they're like, stick your hand under there. I'm like, I don't stick my hand in there for that stuff. I wash my hands. That's soap and water. It works great. And they're like, oh no, you have to. I'm like, no, I don't have to. All right. And of course, then the hospitals, right, guys. It's all over the place. All those hand sanitizers, right? So for me, I'm like, that is one of the things that's breaking down the barrier that allows those viruses to come in. So we've gone too far on that subject. And the other thing I think we've gone too far to set up why we are today, why we are here, is we went too far on the use of the antibiotics in the first place. We just prescribed them like they were candy. You need some, here you go. Every little thing came along. And even a mother might say, well, it's a virus, you know, but if you're standing in front of the emergency room doctor, he's like, I got like 40 other people to see, so here's your script, go to the front door next, right? And so we've gotten to a point where we also destroyed some of that good gut bacteria that we talked about, and then we said, oh, now we have another new problem. We have that bacteria that are resistant to any kind of thing we can throw at them. Something like 200 and don't quote me, love, like 259, I think, right? That's been classified already. And some of those are those things you heard about, and you only thought it was the horror movies, the flesh-eating bacteria. They're out there, and once that happens, you can't really turn that around. It's tough, all right? And right now, when we look at this, what happened in 2020 when people started coming down with these symptoms? We all know what they are: cough, fatigue. Well, that's a really specific issue, isn't it? Right? Covers a lot of territory, right? And then, of course, the ones that we started to identify that became like, oh, loss of taste, loss of smell, and, you know, zinc. Okay, we need some zinc. Well, we've known that before, but now it became part of everyone's mind. It was even probably in People magazine, that loss of taste, loss of that ability to smell, which are connected, right? Was a zinc deficiency. I guarantee you right now, and Katie Mayo can tell you, and all those in the office can tell you, that in the office we test for zinc in this over-the-counter approach. By doing the taste test, we can test for the zinc in your tissue all the time. And a lot of people are very deficient in zinc, so we all need to understand that Jeremy will be passing out some zinc samples later on that we'll also have to put in our tea, right? So we started to know some things that we could start to look at. And then we also went to the things that we do know, though, which is what's in everybody's medicine cabinet, all right, is things like the Tylenol and the Advil, okay? So what was wrong with the Advil? People were popping the Advil. Oops, there's something else we learned. The Advil was actually destroying the glutathione, which we really needed as part of our immune system. It's important. Where do you get that from? Yeah, you can go and try to get some of the different supplements, but for my thing is, we got to do what our grandmothers always told us to do, which is to eat those green leafy vegetables. Ta-da! Right? Right? So we need to eat more of those, and we should have been doing that. But sometimes we didn't. You know, right? And the process is one that a lot of people also went to the other issue, of course the Advil we call vitamin I, it's ibuprofen, right? Advil might be 25 milligrams of ibuprofen. And then some people got in the habit like, well, I'm not really getting any better. My fatigue isn't any better. I'm taking that Advil. Well, maybe I need to take like 30 of those, or 50 of those, or 100 of those, right? You guys have heard patients say, how many Advil they take? And only so many Advil, I think somebody got their PhD, how many Advil can you take in your lifetime? I guarantee you after COVID, everybody's gone over the top, all right? Then we looked at Tylenol as the other thing. So anti-inflammatory issue is the Advil, which was like, again, it had its downside. So taking more of that was not going to solve the problem, especially not for a virus. And then we looked at Tylenol. Okay, with Tylenol, pain relief, right? And you can actually create a problem for yourself for both Tylenol and Advil in terms of really asking your liver to do more work than it could do, right? And a lot of people have what we really would consider congestion of liver. Liver's like, hey, look, I got too much work to do. I got 5,000 jobs I got to do every night, all right? And for those of you that kind of wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, all right, and you're like, well, what's going on? Why do I get up? Do I have to go to the bathroom? Maybe. Woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm kind of doing that every night now. Sometimes it's your liver talking to you. It's your liver saying, okay, hello, we had a tough day. We had a tough day, a tough week, tough month, all right? And it goes back to the issue that you don't want to be a good host for those viruses that are out there. Everybody really has to spend some more time taking care of their liver to support their general health and to be more supportive of their health in general for whatever comes along. And the Tylenol, these days there are people who are probably overdone the Tylenol issue as well. But there again, really not the answer. So what kind of things did people go to? They started to go to this thing called Ivermectin, right? Which, if you listen to Joe Rogan's show, he talked all about that, right? And all the issues of it's a dewormer for the animals, right? But ivermectin is a very, very cheap medication that's been around a long time. Although, have you checked it out recently? Have you checked out the price of ivermectin? It's going where? It's going way up because all of a sudden, right? It is. Sorry, Carrie. I hate to give you the bad news, but that's what it is. It's gone way up, right? So the other issue is you had hydroxychloroquine, but in the end, I don't want to spend a long time on that. I want to spend time on the good stuff. But yet, those are issues that have become very popular, and everybody seems to know about them now, right? We need to talk about them. And the biggest issue is we've been going through this process, and we're still not out of it yet, where everyone is like of the official status, whoever they are, right? We know some of them on TV. The people that said this vaccine is the only way to salvation. Yep. You need 1, you need 2, now we need 3. All right. In the end, we can see where we're at. We're still not getting to a point of being able to take care of it. This county alone has what, 85% vaccination rate, they tell us, right? When you consider the other thing we're not allowed to talk about, natural immunity, right? I personally think that just by being in and out in the interaction of people, that you developed almost like a droplet, like not like the monsoon tonight, but those droplets, okay, of being in that area, because that's what it's all about. Because again, I'm still waiting for them to talk about the process that happened at Walmart. Did you hear about that? Did you hear about that? Well, the big breakouts at Walmart of COVID, or the big, what's that?
No, I didn't hear that.
Well, because it didn't happen, right?
Oh, okay.
That's what it, right? Because all those people just went to work every day, okay? And just like I did, and Katie May was with me the whole time, working through that process, seeing people, all right? And I remember the day that the governor of New York said, "Oh, we got to shut everything down." It was March 20th, I believe, what it was, right? And I remember we actually went out to dinner. And I said, "It's going to go crazy, right?" And we did. Went to dinner. Thank God. Okay. Thank God. But the thing is that the rest of us stepping out, and the other people stayed home. Who really got sick during that time? What did the governor tell us in his daily briefings? Who were the people that got sick? What? Once again? Well, the elderly, right? A little more compromised, we'd say. But really the issue was who got sick were the people that stayed home. 66% of the people that really came down with COVID were actually those who were staying home and sheltering in and not hanging out, right? So we had some bad information there from the very beginning. And the point is that even with this concept of, okay, ivermectin, we have different tools, we weren't allowed to talk about those things, right? And you weren't allowed to discuss that with somebody else. You could only go on that issue that the vaccine was the only way to go. But remember, what happened to all those people in other countries? What happened to people in China way before any vaccine was developed? How did those people get better? What'd they do? Well, maybe exactly, some natural, maybe they reached it because it happened in China first. But really, Grandma came along and said, "Here's some herbals," all right? And it was, and I'm saying China, but a lot of those countries, African countries are on the topic right now because, we're going to cut down the flights from South Africa and from 6 different, and Africa's going, "What the hell are you guys talking about? We don't have a whole lot of stuff going on here." And guess what? When you're talking about natural immunity, they had it, right? You can't go running through the Congo, all right, with having some ability to fight off different viruses and bacteria, all kinds of things that we don't want to talk about, right?
Ebola was active.
Exactly, all right? So, the thing is that how do you, all those people, because that's not what the vaccine is really in those issues. They couldn't get it, right? They couldn't afford it, right? Because in those places, those things were sold to them. Here, the government bought it for us. Thank you very much. No, I don't think so. but it was bought. But there it was for sale, and they're like, okay, we got some things. When my wife and I were in Mali and back in 2011, they were like, hey, we got some herbs that we grow right here. Obviously, that was all pre-COVID stuff, but the fact is, that's how they took care of themselves. They're like, the hospital, doesn't really work. And if we're talking about the system being broken, that's one of the problems. And if we haven't realized now, especially those of you that work within the system, you realize really how broken it has become, unfortunately. All right. So, the message really is this, is that we look at how do we assess where we're at, all right? Because it was a silent issue. It's like, it could be anywhere. And what did we say at the beginning? When it came to the packages, UPS guy, he drops it, in our vestibule stuff, right? Except when he wants to talk to Katie May. But he'll drop it off. In the beginning, we had to wipe it off, and people were putting it in their garage and letting it incubate or whatever they were doing. I don't know. And we realize now just how, I hate to say that was kind of silly, wasn't it? And I love the UPS drivers because they were all fun, because they were just, there's this thing about cardboard. It's really antiviral, and so that's why we can still play with it. That was just the fun things that was going on. And we realized that, wait a second, we have to think about this. And now we still have some people who unfortunately are given this sense that somehow the cardboard is deadly, right? And where we go now, though, is this: how do we assess what's going on? What did I say to people today, Carrie? What did I say to you about reading the body? What's going on? What does the body say, right? What does it say when somebody comes in? We got to figure that out. Okay, you're standing up. That's a good thing. You're breathing. That's a good thing, right? Goes back to my EMT days. That was a good sign if somebody could breathe, right? That was a good sign. They would stand up. That was another good sign. Okay, you're 2 for 2. The heart was beating. Okay, you got 3 for 3. But the thing is, how do we assess what's happening? How do we assess what's going on? Well, we did learn a lot of great things from COVID research that came on. All this is all that the 65 pages of the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance, all the things from everything, from what works, what doesn't, does include the ivermectin, blah, blah, blah. What's really great is that they do talk about some important things and things that I think people should be testing all the time, which is, look at our list here. What should we look at? Look at the blood work, right? What's in there? Well, how is your white blood cells? Are they cranking all over the place? Are they down in the dumps? What's your cortisol? What's cortisol? Cortisol is your stress hormone, one of the main ones. All right. What's another stress hormone?
Adrenaline.
What?
Adrenaline.
Well, yeah, adrenaline goes up, right? As part of that. Even your insulin, got to look at your insulin. Sometimes it's, right? So those are tells you what's going on, a little bit of what's happening. So we need to take that assessment, and not in a crisis care situation, hopefully, but start to look at it now for everybody. Do you think a lot of family doctors are really checking that out these days? No. They are actually worrying first about how their Zoom works, all right, trying to figure that out, right? And what's happening again, you talk about changes in the healthcare system, medical system. A lot of medical doctors are like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore, right? Every single day in my office, people ask, who's the primary care doctor that you suggest I use? I'm like, right, Carrie? What do I do? Where do we go? What do we say if we needed that? They've left. All right? And nothing against other allied healthcare professionals, but sometimes even the urgent care centers now is like, well, we got a PA, just came out of Albany Med, got about 3 days of experience, okay? And so you go there expecting, right? This is the truth. You go there expecting there's going to be somebody to help you out, and they're like, it's Doogie Howser or whatever is there, right? So we need to look at what we're assessing. We can look at our own blood work, and if you come through the office, you know that I want to see what that tells me. Besides the fact that we want to do the physical exam and the history, all very important. And where do you get those 3-second histories that are done these days in the hospital, right, or in the family doctor's office? Literally 3 seconds, right? And don't understand anything else of what's going on in someone's life in terms of their how they're feeling, what they're really what's going on, who they even living with. Is grandma in the hospital and you're worrying about those issues or whatever the case may be. What else is happening that really is going to create a problem. And right now, the cortisol, all those things are skyrocketing. We really haven't looked at those things. We need to look at those things kind of first, right? But we do know a couple of great things that has come out of the research. And number one, I think, has to be vitamin D, right?
Yep.
They showed that if you could look at the people, unfortunately, that passed through the COVID, and again, remember there's a difference between COVID, somebody who died of COVID, and somebody who died with COVID. Whole big ball game. And I think those numbers got pretty mungled up in the last 2 years, right? But the vitamin D, to me, is that, and maybe we'll add that zinc we talked about earlier. That's probably 80% of your defense against COVID, and also 80% of your defense against all those other viruses, those thousands of viruses that are flying around all the time. So we forget something called the immune system. Immune system's there. I know mine's working, okay? If you're coming to the office, we're checking that and make sure your immune system is working. And if it's not working, what are we handing out? What are we handing out? The supplementation, the things like Immuplex, and talking about Conjuplex, and talking about all the things that, and again, that includes, that's the combinations for vitamin C and zinc and selenium, all those things, to give yourself the best opportunity. Because I said earlier, any virus, this virus included, and every variant that comes from there is looking for a host. And you've got to be strong enough so you're like, hey, you're like a sheet of armor. Boom, boom, boom. It doesn't make a difference. Come at me. I actually said to people early on, and I didn't get this around too much, but I actually said to people early on, I almost want to come in contact with COVID as a way to continue to boost my immune system, right? Right now, again, I'd say that if we really look at it, the people that have to understand that if you're taking care of themselves, you're in good shape, okay? And continue to be in good shape and maintain that issue by looking at what your vitamin D is, looking at what your zinc is. Some other things too, look at what your B vitamins, they're water soluble, so they drain out. My joke in the office is like, yep, there goes your B vitamins. They dropped on the floor because what's gonna make those B vitamins just drop to the floor, just come out of your body, is stress. Who hasn't had a little stress these days, right? So we need to think about especially B1, B12, but also the whole series. That's why we like to a lot of times prescribe an issue that's going to give you that whole combo of all those B vitamins. And I think really, again, we're probably back to the days of things where B1 thiamine is really deficient. Just as I said about zinc, and the studies are very clear, probably 75-80% of the population is really in need of zinc, because again, it's so important for your immune system. It's actually important for couples in terms of fertility, and it's important for men in terms of the prostate gland, and really in general, again, it's one of those things that we know is just deficient in terms of the fact that we're trying to eat the best we can, try to eat the cleanest, but we just don't always get that zinc in us, right? And that's why I do think we do need, we'll all need a little help with supplementation. So we got the D, the zinc, B1, I mentioned selenium, another trace nutrient of your trace mineral, all right? And, that's something that you need, again, just a little bit of, but if you don't have any, then a lot of things don't work, all right? Again, going back to the prostate and those kind of issues. And studies have shown that even when you talk about more difficult issues like cancer, people that have low selenium tend to have that higher risk for cancer in general. So again, you want to stay strong on all those issues, not just for COVID-19 and not just for a virus, but for a lot of things in terms of your overall health, in terms of that longevity. The other issue is that, what this document talks about is the fact that we do have things that are to our disposal. And of course, for some people, we had people who went for vitamin C IV drips. That worked. Just an overload. That goes back to Linus Pauling. That's been done before. And I know a lot of holistic healthcare practitioners across the country who use that. And guess what? They beat it. There are docs out there. Again, you're not going to see them on CNN. All right? They were told they couldn't appear. And some docs really wanted to get the word out, but they couldn't. But maybe that's what they did. They did a concoction of vitamin C. Maybe you can add a few other things, but that's what they really needed to have somebody truly overcome COVID-19, if that was really the case. And in some people, they do that on some regular basis to help support them. I think that we should have the opportunity to just like they would do in countries in Africa, just like they do in a lot of places, the cultural issues are there, and we have the technology here, so let's use it the right way to use something like an IV drip of vitamin C. It's not something that I do in my office, but that's something that is done, and I think that we need to just keep our minds open, because that's really what science is all about, to keep all those options open and ready to go, right? And again, this kind of document, talks about all those things, right? Some other things that we have is like melatonin, all right? Some studies have come up that said that maybe that little bit of melatonin that you wanted to use for sleep, I don't go that way too many times in my office. There's a lot of other great things. You could do something, we use something called Cortisol Manager, which actually, again, keeps that cortisol limited. Ashwagandha, right? I just like saying ashwagandha, right? Just like that. and I think, again, when we talk about the craziness that's occurred, the big thing is, and here is really getting into what we call the secret. The secret is so many people had a level of intensity because of all the news and all the things that were going on, that they could not heal. They could not feel better because that intensity was created. And if you talk to your neighbor, they were as intense as you were. You could talk to relatives, okay? And it's unfortunate because we just went through Thanksgiving. Here we come to Christmas, and we still have a situation where that intensity about COVID, not the virus itself, just the interaction you have to do with people and supposed family and friends, and some of those issues. And I just can't believe that was even said. The CDC director was like, please don't invite people to your Thanksgiving or to your Christmas that were unvaccinated. I'm sorry, what kind of public health information is that? All right,
Yeah.
Pretty garbage, right, in my mind, right? And again, we have those opportunities to overcome that. And again, way before the vaccines were even there, that's how it was overcome in other countries, and some of those things you never even heard of. I think it was the president of Tanzania, not that it's a big hotspot to go to. Maybe it's the next cruise, I don't know. But
Worked well for me.
What's that?
Worked well for me.
Yeah, there you go. See, that's right. You did. That's right. You did. I forgot about that. So Tanzania, the president there was like, look, we don't need any vaccine. We got some herbs here. We're golden. We're golden, right? And so what if everybody has that opportunity to make that autonomous choice to look for those things, right? But we find ourselves in a situation where people are still obviously very afraid, and in that sense of fear, you just cannot make those good decisions that you would like to make, because there's always somebody kind of looking over your shoulder, and you question yourself. I think a lot of healthcare practitioners, I know a lot of colleagues of mine, a lot of chiropractors, a lot of people were like, I don't get what's going on, but I'm not sure, so I'm not going to really talk about what I think I need to talk about with their patients. And a lot of even chiropractors who were not shut down during their process, who shut down their offices for that fear of that kind of situation, right? And that's just where we ran aground. And a lot of people who were also, from my perspective, who did not really come up to the plate when they were supposed to, was some of those leaders, even within the spiritual world, in the religious world, the pastors and stuff, who just were as afraid as everybody else and said, no, we're just going to close the church. Yeah, but at a time when people are freaked out, I think we need to be in church. We need to meet God. Nope, closed for the next 6 months, right? And those are things that created a bigger problem, because if we look at one thing about longevity, besides your vitamin D and your B and all those other things we've discussed a bit here tonight, is zinc, the isolationism is what really created that problem for people not feeling well. And I think a lot of people actually died more of isolation, especially if they were in a situation they couldn't get to loved ones. They were in a unit, right? You guys know that, right? It was just, they were stuck. And those people that were, even if they were in a residential living, the system said, oh no, we can't have food together with other people, God forbid. We can't have you interact with our staff anymore, right? And I think that to me was one of the biggest problems. And I saw that even in my own family. My mom is 87, Marianne's mom is 91. You had to be like Marianne's mom. She said, oh, damn the torpedoes, we're going forward, we're going to do things the best we can. And you know, that's the way you have to be. And other people were just under the issue. If you were under the institution, regardless of how good you might have felt, there was all this insanity going around, and that made people pretty bad, really, right? The ideas of that depression and those things that happened. Yeah, broken heart. That's right. That's exactly what they had, right? And you know, the thing is, we really now are in a stage where we have to spend that time to really building our immune system and not being the good host, because there will be other variants. I heard the head of the NIH, I forget his name, I think he's retiring anyway, right? They all seem to be going, right? He said there will be a new variant every 6 months. And that blows the mind of some people who are just going to be deeper and deeper and deeper in their foxhole. And that's, again, a bad place to be, too much being alone. And, you know, when we look now at the next step about the third shot, the fourth shot, the fifth shot, right? I think Israel's already at 4 shots. And again, they haven't really tackled those issues. But we should have enough, because people told us that earlier. Oh, we get to 70% of vaccination, we'll be in good shape. And you add some natural immunity. Oops, wait, can't talk about natural immunity. But we should be able to, because I think a lot of people, probably a lot of people in this room, you know, have that and just built that in, because again, they didn't isolate themselves. And they went out and did things. And again, all and the staff, and you still met with people in their homes, or people in the hospitals and the nursing homes. And again, those people at Walmart, you know, got to give it to them, right? They just, you know, and I think, you know, when I'd go in there to the Price Shoppers and stuff, some of the kids just look so freaked out. And like if you just like went like this, they would fall over. And that's a really sad situation, because I think a lot of those kids, if they got sick, it wasn't a COVID. They got sick because, again, they're like, what the hell kind of world is this, you know? And we just had, you know, my granddaughter, 5 years old, you know, her teacher had a conversation with my daughter about her. She's doing great. She's doing great. She doesn't talk much. Well, that mask is on all day at school. Okay, I wouldn't like to talk too much either. Right? That's the issue. Because when she's with us, or when she's, you know, in other settings outside of school, she's talking like everything, right? But in school, she's like, oh, mask tells me I can't talk anymore, right? And we really need. I'm hoping for my Christmas wish that we see that turnover. Okay, we talked about it earlier tonight. Things are changing. People are looking more at the bigger picture, despite what some government official says. And you know, I really think that when we look at it now, we have to almost admit, sorry, no helicopters, black helicopters, no. You know, that we need to look at the fact that the vaccines haven't really worked for people as they were promised. And Pfizer and those companies, again, you got stock in there, Dave, you know, what, $12 now Moderna stock's up to $239. Okay. I mean, hey, it's great money. They're doing great, but the rest of the population needs that assistance and needs to come back to one very important thing. Our friend Sherry made our little sign. It says faith. Okay. For Marianne and myself, we pick a word every year, as many of you know. That's the word for 2022. Faith. Faith in what we see happening right now. Things are starting to turn around. Have faith in your immune system. Faith in, vitamin D, zinc, your B vitamins, okay? The green leafy vegetables that Grandma said I had to eat, right? And have faith in the fact that, you know what, all the things you need to get through COVID and to get to the next step is really on this earth, you know? The water, all right? The other people, we need each other in that respect. We do need each other, all right? And faith that things will turn out okay, all right? Because right now, to me, that's the most powerful situation. And the faith means you can see the light even though it's very dark right now. And we're into the holidays, but at the same time, people remind us that we're in this long, dark winter, right? I've heard that's term. I don't buy it. I see a lot of light in this. And those of you that are dealing with some really tough decisions about having to make that call, do I get a shot or do I have to leave my job? All right. You know, a shout out to all of you guys that I know that's a real tough one, because I do know some chiropractors who in some states were told a similar thing. Thank God it didn't happen here. Don't give the governor any ideas. And if I, right? And I can tell you this, that Katie May can vouch for me too, that if I couldn't come to the office in the last year, or especially that first month or two, I don't think I'd survive that issue. If I couldn't be in the office, right? And that's the thing that kept me going through all this process, is all the people that come through, and the fact that people have been able to help people, and be that, hopefully be that faith, be that light for some of those people that were coming through, because a lot of people had some real tough time, and Katie May knows this too. Sometimes we did an adjustment, talked about some supplementation, talked about doing their homework, okay? Right, Law? Your homework, you gotta work on that, okay? Well, all right. And sometimes we had to give a little pep talk in the end, and people needed to just come in the office and breathe because they felt like they couldn't breathe out there. Things are improving. I think things are turning. I know things are turning, right? And you have to have faith in that issue, because I think that if we all maintain that and understand those principles, checking in on yourself, checking in on your kids, even those adult kids, Kath, you know, because sometimes they're the toughest to teach, right? But because they know it all. They're 25, right? Sorry. Yeah. But the thing is that you gotta have faith in what's here, what's God's given us. It's given us all the tools to fight this or whatever else comes along. Because again, we know there will be another virus. There's going to be another virus. It's going to come, right? The Ebolas and the AIDS and all the other stuff. It's all the same thing. It's all SARS, right? But there will be another one. But we have the tools we need. Keep faith in your immune system, faith in what God has given you, and we're all going to get through as we should. It's going to be great. But right now, we look to celebrate the Christmas holiday coming up and the new year. And I think 2022 is going to be great because it's going to be the year of faith. Questions, comments, anything?